we meet again.
Good to see you guys are hanging in there.
Why is it that
I'm glad the
Elisa...
four of you are unharmed as well.
Well, it seems you've cooled your head a bit at least.
Yes, I've calmed down now.
Yeah, he seems to be doing just fine. Have they not introduced themselves to us yet? And why is she the only one with a weapon?
I don't believe I've introduced myself yet, have
Oh,
I?
you know, I was asking the same question. Why have her title card come up before she says it?
I'm Laura S. Arcade, from the town of Legram.
The town.
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
We get a lot of...
Legram?
There's a lot of locations they mention in this game that you sort of just have to remember.
That's down on the southeastern outskirts of the Empire, isn't it?
Correct. It's an old castle town on the shores of Lake Ebble.
Fair
We're
enough.
connected to the rest of the country by train, but other than that, it's a fairly remote region.
I mean, I think most of the Empire is connected by train. That's sort of the title of the game.
That name sounds so familiar. Wait, so your father would be...
Oh, she's a noble. Okay.
Yes, my father is Viscount Arcade, Lord of Legram.
Okay, cool.
Do you take issue with that?
No, not at all.
I'm pretty sure you do, Machias. I'm pretty sure you have a problem with that.
Machias, was it? I can only speak for myself, but I don't feel I've ever done anything to bring shame upon myself in Adios's eyes.
It's a very... How would I put it? It's weird that she would reference the religion specifically, because it seems like kind of a non-issue in this case.
And I fully believe the same to be true of my father.
Please, I meant no offense. I'm sorry if I...
It's weird. I don't think a whole lot of characters make a big deal about Idios all that much. So it's weird that it would come up in this
I don't believe we've
case.
been introduced.
Emma. Look at all that hair.
I'm Emma Milstein. Like Laura, I come from a distant region of the Empire. I was only able to attend Thor's thanks to a scholarship, in fact.
Why won't you tell us where?
It's very nice to meet you.
A distant region of the Empire. Which one?
A scholarship? Indeed. Now that you mention it, our instructor did say yours was the top score on the entrance exam.
She's quite intelligent, at the very least.
I think I was outdone. By a girl, no less.
Machias, you got a lot of, like, weird hang-ups.
You must be quite the prodigy.
Maybe it seems like it now, but really, I'm not. I don't have any training in the martial arts either, so this is the weapon they recommended for me.
Why would... It's such a weird conversation. Why does she immediately turn to her weapon?
Oh,
Is she...
cool. You got an orbital staff too.
I can't tell if she's, like, evading or if this is just weird, sloppy writing. I think, based on the way the rest of the game plays out for the most part, I feel like maybe she's just trying to distract us.
Yours looks different from mine, though.
Not to say that there's anything, like, super mysterious about Emma in general or any of the characters, really, but it's... almost every character has things that they choose not to say or choose not to talk about. Even Reen in the earlier scene, we see that. So it's interesting how many characters use little tactics or say things or change topics to avoid having to talk about whatever it is they decided they don't want to talk about. In most cases, in fact, for these characters, it's kind of a mundane thing to hide, but they choose to anyway. And I think part of it's because they're depicted to be a little bit younger, so maybe they overvalue things that would otherwise not be that important.
Huh, so it does. I wonder if it's just cosmetic.
Yes, red-eyed, blonde-haired girl. You're not meant to stand out especially at all.
Is something the matter?
Yeah,
We're
what's
all
up?
acquainted now. It's only proper that you introduce yourself.
Yeah, you're being kind of rude, don't you think?
Yeah, okay.
It's a weird way to say that. Those boots are pretty awesome, though. Elisa
I'm
R.
Lisa R. from Ruhr.
And this one's pretty self-evident. Why don't you want to tell us your last
It's
name?
a pleasure to meet almost all of you.
Damn it, Elliot. Why you gotta go ruin this?
Elisa.
Ruhr, huh? What's it like living there? There's probably a new technological breakthrough every week.
Okay, it's the tech center.
The
Cool.
Rhineford Company's based in Ruhr, and they're the largest heavy industry corporation on the continent, aren't they?
I
The
suppose they
Rhineford
are.
Company. Okay. More names, places, things.
So, hey. I guess that bow must have been in that case you had with you when we first met, right?
I mean, you're digging a hole here, Reen.
I've never seen one like it. Is there some kind of orbal mechanism built in?
Is there?
There is, but I don't see how that's any of your business.
Yikes.
Ouch.
Yeah. Anyone got any ideas on what to do now? We've all run into each other wandering around. How about we stick together?
I think that would be for the best. It's not safe for a group of girls to travel alone. You may require
I mean, it was all going well until Machias decided to say some more dumb shit.
You needn't to be concerned about that.
The big sword, though.
I beg your pardon?
So, they make Laura out here to be like a very physically fit and strong and like independent woman for a number of reasons, and that's cool. My issue is that as much as they make it out as if she can wield
I
this
don't
sword,
mean to boast, but I'm confident my swordsmanship will be more than sufficient to protect us.
I don't think she even weighs enough to be able to like functionally operate a weapon like that.
For now, I think it's best to remain in separate groups. There are still 2 of us who remain unaccounted for.
That's right. We still haven't run into that silver-haired girl.
In that case, 2 teams means double the chance to find them.
Sort of. And normally in a search party scenario, you're not wrong, but we don't have an easy way to communicate with one another if we do find
2
them.
teams is double the coverage, and double the chance of crossing paths with our missing companions.
But also increasing the opportunity that someone else becomes lost.
How's that sound?
I have no objections.
I just don't think they really want to travel with us, and we're just trying to come up with a good excuse for that.
So then, shall we be off?
All right.
Oh well. And then there were 4. Again.
We'll see the 4 of you later then.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll all be fine. It's not like this horrifying death trap could possibly pose us any real danger. Ugh.
She really doesn't seem like she's gonna let that go, does she?
It's looking like a no.
It was clearly an accident. Everyone could see that. But I don't suppose it makes any difference to her. Still, is no one else worried about leaving a group of girls to fend for themselves in a place like this?
I mean, I'm kind of worried about us being...
There are 4 of us here. Perhaps one of us should go follow them.
Again, this is a straight shot. We're gonna be behind them no matter what.
I don't think we have anything to worry about as long as Laura's with them. She really wears her skill on her sleeve. I doubt she drags around a sword that big just for show.
It's certainly an enormous blade. I'd call it comically huge if it didn't look so dangerous.
It's still comically huge regardless of how dangerous it
But at
is.
the end of the day, a lady is a lady.
She's taller and sturdier than I am. Though I admit it's still hard to believe anyone could swing that beast of a sword.
Maybe it's lighter than it looks?
I'll bet she can whip it around without breaking a sweat. The Arside School of Swordsmanship serves as a general basis for the techniques used by knights throughout the Empire.
So the Empire still has knights.
And
Okay.
her father, the Viscount, is arguably the strongest swordsman in the country. People call him the Radiant Blade Master.
Why Radiant?
I doubt any of the other students here could even stand their ground against her in combat, much less beat her.
Not that Radiant doesn't sound cool, I just mean normally when you use that kind of like operative word, you normally are referring to them some sort of thing they did or accomplishment. Radiant implies like incandescence, like being bright.
Interesting.
Does
I
something
didn't
about
know
him
there were
glow?
still roots of the old knightly styles alive in the Empire.
Oh.
You sure know a lot about this stuff, Reen. A hobby of yours?
I'm a swordsman myself. I guess the lore sort of comes with the territory.
So the audio can get kind of
At
delayed on
any
the PC
rate,
version.
How about we pick up the search?
Interesting.
I'm worried about that silver-haired girl. And we still need to track down Duke Alvarea's son, too.
I think both of them are fine, but
That's true.
I couldn't care less what happens to that pompous ass. He can rot down here.
Come on now. That's no way to treat someone you just met.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we all get along just fine.
Looks like the path splits. Which way do you think we should go?
When in doubt,
I
go
feel a
left.
little wind blowing from the east. I bet the exit's that way.
Now's our chance. Let's get him.
Alright, we got a mixed team of enemies for once. So, front line here, it's relatively weak to physical attacks, so we're going to start off with that.
It's my turn.
Drop a Gale Stinger. Cool. So that's a couple down. Drop a Needle Shot with that guy.
Leave it to me. Eat that.
My turn.
Right.
Right.
Easy enough.
That's the power of the 8 leaves.
An A+ outcome.
Alrighty.
Oh, a treasure chest.
So it is interesting that pretty much all of the characters are sort of hiding things from one another, for various reasons, but the only character that seems particularly genuine is Gaius, and he doesn't really very talkative, so he like passively hides things, whereas everybody else seems to be actively trying to avoid something. It's a pretty normal thing to have a cast like this where everyone sort of has their own little quirks, but it's interesting as well that every one of the characters has their own like hang-up, something that bothers them, that they either are trying to hide or that makes them, you know, actively
Arcus activate.
Right.
segregatory, I guess, in the case of Machias. Because Machias comes across as obviously kind of uncomfortably against any form of nobility, which, understandably so, I know where it's coming from, but at the same time, everyone obviously is quite uncomfortable about it, so it's clear that it's something that they wouldn't expect somebody to be so vocal about, which is in contrast to the rest of the characters who seem to like actively avoid telling anyone anything.
My turn.
Like Reen, even our main character seems to have things to hide.
There. Together, we're unbeatable.
And maybe it's not necessarily a lack of... Maybe it's more so a lack of trust, because obviously all these characters have just sort of met each other just now. Oh.
What's wrong?
More monsters?
No, not monsters. It's...
You're pretty sharp.
Oh. It's the short one.
It's the silver-haired girl.
I'm glad to see you're all right. Though it looks like there was nothing to worry about in the first place.
I was gonna say, she seemed just fine.
Nope. I'm small and quick. These things can't lay a finger on me.
Well, at least she recognizes it.
Oh yeah, Fee Clausel. That's my name.
I wonder if her last name is supposed to be like a joke of colossal. Obviously, her being tiny.
You're just over halfway through. Keep it up. Later.
Interesting way to put that.
Hey, wait!
Are you sure you'll be okay on your own?
I'll be fine. I'm used to this. See you at the end.
If only we could do that normally.
What just happened?
Wow.
She certainly wasn't fibbing about being quick on her feet. Guess we really don't need to worry about her.
No, not really.
Yeah, now I'm more convinced than ever that she knows exactly what she's doing. Just over halfway through? Has she already been to the exit and then come back?
Yeah, that's definitely what that means. Because otherwise it would imply that she already knew the layout, which seems unlikely. Although I appreciate that Reen is also thinking about what people are saying in detail. Because everyone in this game is saying stuff deliberately. In many cases, they're hiding things, or they're lying, or they're just speaking in half-truths. And all for various reasons. In a lot of cases, not really for a great reason, or for what they're hiding being a big deal, like I was mentioning earlier. But it's interesting that everyone seems to be making such an effort.
It's my turn.
So just something to keep an eye out for, but we'll keep paying close attention to what everyone's got to say. For now, most of our classmates are maybe not genuine, but at the very least, they're not...
It's my turn.
Nothing that they're hiding is a big deal.
Eat that. Right. Go. Ha. Leave it to me. Eat that. Leave it to me.
Anyway, these enemies aren't very dangerous, so we're just sort of mowing our way through them.
Right. Oh, we did it.
Great.
There we go, motivate.
I'm just getting started.
Cool. Just keeping an eye. So, for those of you who would appreciate any sort of walkthrough advice, basically fight every enemy you see once. You'll generally be strong enough to win. Also, keep an eye out for corners. A lot of times destructibles are put into corners and therefore are going to carry with them like basic loot.
My turn.
Usually just money and septh. So it's worth just breaking all of them, making sure you have all the stuff you need to make anything you need to make in the game.
It's my turn. Arcus, activate.
Anyway, we'll just go ahead and mow through these guys.
Ha. Ha. Here we go. Leave it to me.
I'm pretty sure Reen just kills this guy anyway, so it's not a big deal.
Okay,
All right.
safe for now.
Cool. Continue on our way. Oh. Game doesn't like when I move my mouse. Give me a second here. Just gotta do something in my settings.
All right. Leave it to me. Here we go. All right. Right. Go.
We are going to spend pretty much the whole game moving around as Reen, by the way.
Do you hear that?
Someone's fighting up ahead. Come on.
Yeah, let's go check it out.
Reen.
Wait for me.
I appreciate that their response is to run in and the other two's response is not to do that. Oh man, use this. He's surrounded. He's also doing stuff he shouldn't be able to do, by the way.
Incredible. That was really something.
He's
Judging
so
by that
fast.
display, I don't think he needs any help from us.
Doesn't
I
look
take
like it.
That's another school of Imperial swordsmanship?
Right. That's court fencing, an agile style favored by the nobility.
Okay.
And judging by his poise, he's no amateur.
I mean, that backstep he just did where he just sort of slid backwards in an animation style. Very, very high level stuff. It's cool, though. So, again, we're sort of establishing Yuzus as above the rest of the cast as far as skill. Obviously, Laura as well. There's sort of a hierarchy we're building of how good everyone is at combat canonically compared to everyone else.
Did you need something?
So there's also something to talk about, which I suppose we'll talk about in our next downtime. Recognizing that there's a certain amount of what is canon versus what's the stats in the game. Because some portion of this is like what actually happens in the story versus what's happening with us with the controls in our hands, rather.
Sorry, I was just admiring your swordsmanship.
It's weird that it keeps lagging. I'll have to take a look at that. The audio should play as soon as the text arrives.
I'm Reen Schwarzer.
Like that. And sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why.
I didn't get the chance to introduce myself earlier.
I'm Elliot Craig.
Guys, Warzel. Nice to meet you.
I believe I have already introduced myself, but once again, I'm Eustace Alberea. And I have to say, I didn't think you had it in you. I'm impressed.
It's a little antagonistic, but alright.
What are you talking about?
After all that bluster about finding your way to the exit alone, I wasn't expecting you to actually rely on others for help. I assume you came to your senses shortly after you stormed off, and then wandered back to apologize like a good boy.
That's laying on a little thick, Eustace.
Truly, the virtue of the common man. Why, a preening noble such as myself would be far too proud to do such a thing.
What the hell is your problem? You nobles really are all the same. So full of yourselves, it's a wonder you don't pop.
That's an interesting way to put it.
And you're not just a garden variety noble either. House Alberea is one of the highest ranking in the country. I'll bet you just love looking down on us less fortunate souls, don't you?
The two of them is such a petty argument. Like, I get it. So as far as society is concerned, it's clear that there's a tension here. But the fact that it's just two of the characters compared to the rest of the cast not seeming to care that much about nobility versus commoners makes it seem like it's almost a somewhat niche or like a smaller issue than what would otherwise be than what they're making it out to be.
You're one to talk. I don't need a lecture in rank from the son of the Imperial Governor.
Wait, what?
Oh, I thought the name Regnitz sounded familiar.
Karl Regnitz, the first commoner ever to hold the seat of Imperial Governor in Heimdall. The first to rule the capital. And this headstrong young lad just so happens to be a chip off that old block.
Okay. So this is where we start bringing in that a lot of the characters seem to derive a certain amount of their personality or their beliefs or perspective very heavily on their family, which is a concept we're going to explore as we go. But keep an eye out for everybody's family members, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, etc., and how it sort of shapes the character, but not only the conflicts they have with other characters.
Pretty rarefied air for a simple commoner, don't you think?
What does that have to do with anything?
I mean, it's pretty important to your character, Machias. You hate nobility, but your father is a pseudo-noble.
Yes, my father is the Imperial Governor, but he earned that position through years of hard, honest work.
Okay.
Don't you go lumping him in with you nepotists who get your titles handed to you just for being born.
It's a somewhat narrow perspective to put nobility in that, yes, obviously they're given their titles, but they're also born with a certain amount of responsibility as a result. So the perspective is very skewed for someone who isn't in that position to look into it. And the opposite is also true.
Perish the thought. No, I mainly just regard your father as a reformist, and a close friend of the Chancellor at that. And as you're vividly aware, his faction is in conflict with the noble faction, led by none other than the four great houses.
Okay, and then this is where we introduce some sort of political conflict.
When you look at it that way, your vitriolic disdain for the nobility suddenly seems rather cheap, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's sort of getting something from your parents, like just doing what they do, like emulating them almost.
You son of a...
Magius, don't do it.
So here we get to decide who we're sort of going to side with. In this case, I'm going to stop Machias. I'm not so much picking a side. I think both of them are in the wrong here, but I will point out that Machias seems pretty hard-pressed to instigate this early on.
I know he's taunting you, but lashing out at him isn't going to solve anything.
Violence amongst ourselves is kind of a wasted effort at this point, especially in such a dangerous circumstance.
And Eustace, don't you think that was a little uncalled for?
More than a little.
I wasn't the one who started this.
That's also a little petty.
Let me... Damn it, just let me go already! Sorry, okay? Just... Leave me alone for a while. You guys should just go on ahead with him.
Oh,
I think you went a little too far, Eustace.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna appreciate a scolding from us, but I
Being
agree.
at odds with Machias is one thing, but dragging his father into it is pretty low. You're better than that.
Perhaps I was a bit out of line. It would seem I still have much to learn.
It's quick self-reflection uses.
You look shocked. Why?
well, you're the son of Duke Alberea, right? I wasn't expecting the son of a noble to admit he was wrong. Wait, no, that came out wrong. I'm sorry.
There's no need to address me so formally. We may come from different social spheres, but here at this academy, we're supposed to be on equal standing.
See, this is what I mean when I say I think Eustace is a lot more level-headed. He seems... He carries a certain amount of anger with him, which I think shows up when Machias instigates it, and that's what draws him to go a little too far. At least as far as, like, what you hear in his tone and the way he's interacted so far. Like, he seems to be carrying a certain amount of anger there, but there's a temperance to the way that he acts.
Or so the idea goes, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yes, I'm with you all the way there.
And there's definitely a level of fear from characters like Elliot versus nobility.
Is class really that big a deal here in the Empire?
Yeah, that's a good question, guys. Is it?
It is. This country has a long history, and the class system has been one of its central institutions for most of that.
Okay. Yeah, so these are other important things to note.
So what are you going to do, Eustace? Machias said to go with you, but I don't want to press you into coming along if you don't want to.
Well, I mean, at this point we have an open character slot, so I guess we need to pick him up, don't we?
I was intending to press on to the exit by myself, but I'd prefer not to mimic the actions of his ilk, so I'll accompany you.
And now there's a little bit of vitriol there, I guess, but
What?
the glare.
I'm just surprised we're worthy of your company. I mean, I'm looking forward to having you on the team.
It's weird that Elliot suddenly becomes very uncomfortable the moment where Eustace is actually speaking with him directly.
Let's just go with that.
We should get moving then. Come on.